Hello and welcome to the France 24 interview. Our guest today is Ibrahim Kalin. He's a special advisor and spokesperson for Turkey's President Recep Tayyip Erdogan. He joins us from the Turkish capital, Ankara. Thank you very much for being with us today.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
Mr. Kalin, Turkey has over 156,000 confirmed cases of COVID-19, some 4,340 deaths. Do you believe the epidemic is under control in your countries? I would just want to add that the authorities have declared a 4-day nationwide curfew during the Eid al-Fitr celebrations.
Well, the numbers are going down. We have the situation under control mostly, but we are being very careful because we still don't know the exact pattern of behavior for this virus. You have to be ready for a second wave. That's why we are emphasizing these measures to be implemented carefully. Compared to other countries, I think we have done extremely well in terms of taking these measures early on, implementing them. Our people have appropriated these measures and they are abiding by them. And we are, of course, going into a gradual phase of easing up some of the restrictions, but we are going to be careful. Because I think a common trait of this COVID-19 period in which we live right now is that we're going to have to live with it for some time.
Right. I want to turn to Libya. Clearly, Turkey's intervention there has upended the situation on the ground. It has given the upper hand to the government of Fayez al-Sarraj against his arch-rival Khalifa Haftar. Essentially, he'd been holed up in the capital Tripoli. It seems now that Haftar's troops and allies are fleeing away. Is this what's happening right now as we speak in Libya?
Well, the situation remains very critical and fragile. We signed an agreement with the Libyan government, which is recognized by the UN as the legitimate representative of the Libyan people, back in December of 2019. Upon the request of the Libyan government of national accord, where we provided them with some help, advice, and we've sent some advisors there to help them bring a degree of balance to the conflict. In fact, our intervention and our agreement with the national accord government has indeed brought a degree of balance to the conflict there. If you look at Haftar's behavior over the last 2 years, he has broken every single agreement, every single ceasefire put together and hope to be implemented by the international community. He has not recognized any of the UN mandates there. He has broken the ceasefire agreed in the Berlin conference. He continues to attack his own people. And we believe it's time for the international community to recognize what Haftar is. And he is not a legitimate representative of the Libyan people. He's brought more suffering and accelerated the violence in Libya with the support of a number of countries, obviously from the Gulf region and most recently from Russia. But we believe that the military solution is not a solution in Libya. The UN has laid out a number of principles. The Berlin conference put together a number of principles, a framework, and we all support it. The Sarraj government has been very responsible and constructive from the very beginning. They have implemented the ceasefire. They have worked with the international community. So now it's time for Haftar's backers to understand that Haftar is not a reliable partner in Libya.
Right, but it seems that it's not so much a political solution as a military one that's being pushed. I mean, there are reports of Russian mercenaries, Syrian mercenaries fleeing away from Tripoli, also reports from Russia sending warplanes. It seems that the Sarraj government, with your decisive support, is pushing for a military victory against Haftar.
They are defending their positions. They are in Tripoli, in Libya's capital. They are responding to Haftar's aggressive behavior. And the mercenaries that were brought to Libya from Chad, from the Sudan, from Syria most recently, the Wagner Group, which is the Russian military company, they all fought actually on the side of Haftar. And now they are realizing, I mean, Haftar's backers realize that that's not a solution, it's not working. And the Sarraj government, in fact, has said many, many times that they want a political solution, not a military solution, but obviously they have a right to defend themselves.
Are they ready to push onto territory controlled by Haftar and maybe as far as his stronghold, Benghazi?
There needs to be a political solution which will apply to all of Libya, not just a single or certain parts of Libyan territories. That is not only in Tripoli, but also in Sirte, in Benghazi, and other places. The recent actions by the Haftar forces, in fact, have turned people in Benghazi, Akila Salih, and others also against Haftar. So I don't know what their military plans are, but they are entitled, and I see them determined, in fact, to defend themselves against Haftar if needed militarily.
Right, but you're encouraging the Sarraj government to defeat Haftar militarily if he doesn't want to listen to any conciliation, correct?
We've been encouraging them to apply the principles of the Berlin Conference as well as the UN plan.
But also military force.
No, actually, the Berlin Conference called for a ceasefire, for a political resolution. If you remember, it was out of the Berlin Conference that a military council decision was taken to be established, 5 from the Sarraj side, 5 from the Haftar side, to talk about deconflicting there. But unfortunately, the Haftar side has refused to send even representatives to that military council. Instead, they increased their military attack. So in response to that, the Sarraj government is responding to them to push off their military offense.
Right. I want to ask you about some news that just came out from a UN experts report talking about private Western forces that had been sent to Libya a few months ago to prevent Turkey from giving some military help to the Sarraj government. And it said this was coordinated from companies based in the United Arab Emirates. What's your reaction to this report from UN experts?
Well, the Abu Dhabi government has been providing a lot of military and financial support to Haftar, and it's not a secret. They are financing this war by probably using the oil money coming from the Libyan oil fields confiscated by Haftar himself. They're providing money for probably the Wagner group, the Russian mercenaries there, as well as other mercenaries coming from the Chad, from Niger, from Sudan, and other places.
But in this case, it's Western mercenaries, it appears.
Yeah, and it actually clearly shows who is really escalating the violence there.
Right. There have been some tensions with France over Libya, over Syria. In a statement just 2 weeks ago, the Foreign Ministry of Turkey accused France of being the patron of the Axis of Malice. What's the situation with France? Is this still a very tense relationship because of disagreements over Libya, over Syria, and other things?
Well, in Libya, we had extensive discussions at the Berlin Conference as well as before, and our president had a number of discussions with President Macron about finding a political solution to the Libyan conflict. But unfortunately, France continues to support Haftar, who turned out to be not reliable, who is the one.
France was wrong to support him. That's what you're saying.
Yes, of course, we believe that. We believe that anyone who is still supporting Haftar is on the wrong side in the Libyan conflict. In Syria, we have our disagreements as well, not only with France, but also with the United States, because both of them are supporting PYD-YPG, which is PKK Syria branch, and PKK is listed as a terrorist organization in the EU, recognized as a terrorist organization in France. And we believe that supporting PYD-YPG in the name of fighting Daesh, that was the justification a couple of years ago. And now the Daesh threat has been mostly eliminated, as it was declared by the President of the United States, but a number of other Western allies. They still continue to support PYD-YPG. We have to understand PYD-YPG's main agenda is to create their own Kurdish enclave in Syria. And that goes against the very idea of Syria's territorial integrity and political unity. We believe all the Kurds, Arabs, Turkoman, Muslim, Christian, Alawite, Sunni, everybody should be at the negotiating table against the Assad regime and its aggressive and brutal war. But you cannot pick and choose one particular ethnic or ideological group and give them some privileges. It really undermines all the efforts that we are putting together to keep Syria together, make a transition possible in Syria PKK's agenda in Syria is clear. It's to create their own secessionist state
Right.
enclave. But of course, we will not allow that because that poses a national threat to our national security, but also it undermines the basic goal of UN Resolution 2254, which calls for Syria's territorial integrity and political unity.
Very last question. Presidents Erdogan and Trump spoke just a few days ago. Is the relationship improving? It grew quite tense, especially because Turkey acquired Russian S-400 air defense system. They were supposed to be activated in April. We're in May. It didn't happen. Is this a sign that the relationship might be on the mend with Washington?
Our presidents have good relationship. They had a good conversation about Libya, about Syria, about COVID-19, about bilateral relations. They set a goal of reaching $100 billion trade goal. We are working on all of these areas, but we have disagreements over, again, who the United States is supporting in Syria. In regards to the S-400, this came as a result of our many years of efforts to acquire Patriot missile defense system. But unfortunately, since the Obama presidency, it didn't happen. We had no choice but to look for alternatives. When our president made this clear, and he's been transparent throughout the whole process, he's not blackmailed anybody or anything. In fact, he has been very clear about this. If we cannot get the Patriot missile defense system from the United States or from NATO allies, we will look for alternatives. And we did that. We got the S-400, but we received the agreement. Actually, we signed the agreement for S-400 before the Congress passed the so-called CAATSA resolution, which calls for sanctions for any country acquiring S-400 or Russian military equipment. We've said all along that we can work together to address any security concerns that our allies may have about S-400 being compatible or not compatible with the NATO defense system. And our president also said that, in fact, we are prepared to acquire Patriot missile defense system from the United States.
As a conclusion, there's still a possibility that those air defense systems might not be activated as those negotiations continue, right?
The plans actually are going as planned before in regards to the S-400. Because of the COVID-19, things have been delayed, but in principle, we are sticking to our agreement on the S-400 as before.
Okay, Ibrahim Kalin, special advisor to Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan. Thank you very much for being with us here on France 24.